Caution. Please be aware that this video has been created solely for educational purposes. We do not promote the use of legal or illegal psychoactive substances. Hey guys, so in this video I'm going to be talking about ayahuasca. I expect that this video is going to be a long one because not only will I be talking about the experience of ayahuasca, my individual experiences with it, but I'll also be talking about a lot of other stuff. Human capacity for psychedelic experience, why I think it is absolutely necessary for someone like me, and so maybe it could be useful for someone like you if you're someone that is similar to me. Yeah, I'll be talking about a lot of stuff, so let's just get into it. I suppose first thing I'll do is just give you guys a little bit of background as to what ayahuasca is and what initially drew me to it. So ayahuasca is a plant medicine. It's typically administered by a shaman who is an indigenous person as part of a cleansing ceremony. I'll talk to you guys about where I go with the. I'm not sure if the experience changes depending on where you are in the world, but I'll walk you through what a typical experience is like for me based on where I go. So again, I live in Colombia. I go to it's considered a magical place actually here in Medellin, Colombia. It's called Santa Elena. It's a little higher up, so it gets very chilly. And so I know a shaman there who performs these ceremonies. So whenever I go there, he's got it's like a teepee, if you will. In Spanish, it's called a moloca. And so it's a round teepee. There's a fire in the middle. Around that, they'll place like plastic tarp on the ground, and they'll make little beds. They're not really beds. They're just blankets. Lots of blankets. It gets really cold. And so when the ceremony begins, first you'll talk to the shaman. Ideally, you want to have some sort of, in Spanish it's called propósito, but you want to have a goal, right? Something that you're looking to. You want the plant medicine to help show you. So that's the first thing. You also want to be very careful to not have expectations. The first couple of times that I did it, and I've done this 5 times now. The first couple of times I thought that I wanted the medicine to show me truth, or I thought that I wanted that to be the case, but I actually went in wanting this medicine to confirm things for me. At the time, I thought I was in love with someone, and so I wanted to confirm my love for that person, and I had a couple of other things that, unbeknownst to me, I was looking to have confirmed through this experience. So that's actually one of the biggest things that I'll caution is to try to not have expectation. You want to go in with the goal of learning something. You want to have some sort of goal, but be careful to not have, or try not to have expectations. Sometimes you may think you don't have an expectation, or you're not looking to confirm something, and you actually are, and maybe that'll just be shown to you as part of the process. So anyway, back to the actual process. So again, there's fire in the middle. There's the mats are all around the fire. If you're going with if you're there with a bunch of people, the males will drink first, then the females afterwards. The liquid itself is it's like a purplish liquid. It's not particularly tasty. It's given to you by the shaman in like a shot glass, and so you'll drink it. They'll give you some water to wash your mouth out, and you spit out into a bucket. So again, men first, females afterwards, and then immediately after you've taken it, you can basically do whatever you want. Most people will just kind of sit around and meditate. You can go over to the fire, sit in the fire. Usually I'll just sit by the fire for a little bit and just stare at it for 10 or 15 minutes. Or you could just go directly to your bed. So whenever you're ready, you make your way over to your bed. You wrap the blankets around you, get nice and comfy. And generally, and this varies person to person, but after 15 minutes, 25 minutes, some people 30 minutes, some people an hour, you'll start to feel extremely nauseous. Before you start to feel nauseous, you will start to feel the effects of the plant, right? So you'll start to feel like a full body, I don't know quite how to describe it, but basically just you're kind of leaving this reality and moving into another one. I would even say you're leaving this world and moving into another one, a very different one. And so again, after 15 minutes to 1 hour, you'll start to feel extremely nauseous. It's usually at this point that you're going to have some of the most intense visions or experience of the plant, and you'll vomit, right? I'll just share that for some reason I never vomit, which is really odd. So I've been to, again, 5 ceremonies. The first ceremony that I went to, it was myself, 2 of my friends, and then there was a family there. And everyone vomited within 25 minutes, I would say. And I was, by the time I got to about 3 hours, and at this point, I had been experiencing the effects of the plant. I thought, by the time I got to about 3 hours, I thought, okay, I've experienced this a little bit. This was interesting. I started to kind of come back to my reality. And that's when I just felt something like digest, and that's when I got violently ill, and that's when the experience started. I don't know why that's the case for me. More recently, the last few times that I've gone, I just don't vomit at all, and so the experience is a lot more intense for me, and it's much longer for me. Again, I don't know why that is. Generally, towards the very end of the experience, I'll actually just force myself to vomit because I have this fear that if I leave it inside of me, I have a fear that a day later or 2 days later, I may be at a restaurant or something, and that's when it's going to kick in, or be at a public place, and so that's completely unfounded, that fear. But nonetheless, when I'm ready to leave the experience, that's when I'll force myself to vomit. Usually, it's after like 4 hours or 5 hours. So anyway, so that's kind of the process, right, leading up to the actual experience of ayahuasca. And so now I think the question becomes, what's the point? Why do people do this? And maybe I'll talk a little bit now about some of the misconceptions, some of the fears. First and foremost, ayahuasca is not a drug, right? It is, and you would, if you were to tell a shaman, for example, that it was a drug, or you were to try to explain it to him in terms of they would look at you, they would have no idea what you're talking about, because to them this is a medicine, this is a sacred practice. And when you think about the nature, a drug, right? I've done lots of drugs. Drugs are something that we do to escape reality, right? To numb it. Ayahuasca, in that sense, is an anti-drug. It is something that we can use, a tool that we can use to experience reality, not escape it. Which brings me to the greatest fear that I see if I talk to someone about ayahuasca, right? And I think the greatest fear for anyone considering taking ayahuasca is that, once the journey begins, you can't leave. And so I think the fear is not so much that you're going to see things that maybe you don't want to see. I think the fear that most people tend to have, well, first and foremost, it's just a fear of the unknown, right? We're always scared of what we don't know, and we're more so scared of what we don't know, and then not being able to, not having the ability to leave or escape that experience or situation once it's begun. And so, yeah, you will see, like the first time that I took ayahuasca, again, there was a family there, and the mother started freaking out once the effects started to kick in, because she wanted it to stop, and there's a risk of freaking out if you want something to stop, but you also she knew that there's no stopping it, I would say that the first time, maybe perhaps even the first few times that you take ayahuasca, it is going to be a terribly frightening experience, because what's happening is essentially to get to that place, right? So, I'm here now. When I take ayahuasca, I'm somewhere else entirely. Time is different. Colors, sounds are different. Just my entire human experience is profoundly different. But to get to that place, you have to. It's a death of sorts, right? And that's why you'll start to feel violently ill. You'll generally start to see things that you don't necessarily want to see, and that's part of the experience of ayahuasca, and one of the things that I think we have to accept if we decide to participate in that is that the truth is very painful, right? And so, and I think most people, don't truly want to know what the truth is, right? And that's a very nuanced thing, because I think most of us believe that we always want to know the truth, and we believe that we're seeking the truth. But if you observe our thoughts, if you observe our actions, we don't really believe that. It's just something that we think that we believe. So this is an illusion. The truth is, by its very nature, a painful thing. And so I think that requires a redefinition of what pain is, what pain can be, and our relationship with pain. If we can see pain as, if we can understand that with pain comes growth, with pain comes self-knowledge, and if that's what we truly want, and if we can make that connection, the pain of truth becomes something that we can seek versus something that we subconsciously try to run away from. So yeah, there's that. Take some hot cocoa. So yeah, I think the fear that most people have is that they're going to experience something that they're not going to be able to escape from. I think that is the fear if you really pinpoint it. And then yeah, I think well, I can't speak for most people, but I can speak for myself in that the first few times, again, you're basically you're dying, right? Your entire perception of yourself, your entire understanding of what is real dies because it has to. You can't go to this place with those beliefs. That stuff doesn't make sense there. Again, time, everything, right? In fact, if you find yourself on this side, in that place, and you even try to rationalize things that you're experiencing with the person that you were on the other side of the experience, you'll just see that stuff immediately. It just won't make sense. Again, it'll be so clear to you why it doesn't make sense. Hopefully that makes sense. So anyway, yeah. So I'll share with you guys my first experience. When I started to feel sick, I actually made a mistake. I didn't. I'm here in Colombia. My Spanish wasn't that great, so you're supposed to just vomit into a bucket that you have next to your bed. I must have misunderstood that. So I actually went outside to go vomit in the toilets, and so which is probably not a good idea. When I stood up from the bed, that's when I started to realize that I was, starting to experience this thing, because I stood up and I basically didn't stop growing. I didn't stop growing, which was odd. So I'm trying to walk my way over to the door of the hut, and it's very hard to walk at this point. So I'm walking over. Again, I feel like I'm just getting bigger and bigger as I'm walking. I'm also, because this is my first time, I'm very self-conscious. I don't want other people to think that I'm under the effect of this thing yet, or I don't want people to look at me really. So I'm trying to kind of keep my cool. I make my way over to the door. I try opening the door, and I'm not able to open the door. I didn't realize there was a piece of wood blocking it on the bottom. And so now I'm freaking out, because it looks like the door I should be able to open it, but I'm not able to. Anyway, the shaman comes over, and he removes the piece of wood. Another thing I'll say about the shamans, I'll talk about that in a little bit actually. I was going to talk about just how great they are at guiding the experience, because they're very much like ghosts. You won't know that they're there for the most part, but they'll be there if you really need them. So I get the door open, I go into the bathroom, and some people also start to get stomach pain and may get diarrhea. They recommend bringing an extra pair of underwear and pants and stuff like that. Thank God I've never, I haven't shit myself yet. I don't think I will, but who knows. Anyway, so I'm in the bathroom, and I'm starting to feel really not good, right? So, and at this point, I just, I pull my pants down, and no, first I'm trying to vomit. I can't vomit, but then I have this also urge to maybe go to the bathroom. So I pull my pants down, and I sit down on the toilet, and yeah, I'm feeling horrible. The shaman actually appears, and he hands me a bucket. He sees that I'm sitting down on the toilet and that I'm not feeling good, and he hands me the bucket, right? So I take the bucket, and so I'm sitting there. I'm really, not only am I not feeling good, but like scary, not good. You know, where it's like you start to worry. And at that point, I saw a vision of basically, I think in Greek mythology they have the boatman, where you have to, before you can pass into the underworld, you have to pay, basically, right? Which is interesting. And I saw a vision of that, right? And so this was me like paying to basically get to death or the other side of, or to get to that other place. I had to pay the boatman first. And the wall is just, everything just felt, it was just a terrifying experience. And again, I think the fear is the experience itself is scary, but the real fear is just I can't escape this, right? And so at some point you just have to accept it. And I think it's once you accept it that you can start to actually experience it. Because if you're just trying to reject it, you can't. You're obviously not open to experiencing it. So I start to calm down a little bit. I start to be okay with the things that I'm seeing, and I'm seeing not pleasant things. So I'm sitting there on the toilet. I have the bucket of water in front of me, and I'm looking, or I find myself looking into the bucket. I think I'm going to vomit, and I see my reflection, but I see like a demon, right? And I see it's like sitting on my shoulder. But then every time I try to look at him, he moves to the other shoulder. He just keeps moving around inside the vision that I'm seeing inside of this bucket. And so I guess that brings me to visions that you may experience on ayahuasca. Everything has significance. So very much like dreams, everything has not only a significance but a profound significance. And because you're awake in the dream, you can again, if you're relaxed and if you're accepting of what you're seeing, and if you're not trying to control the experience, you can extract truth from these visions. And so, perhaps the demon moving, basically every time I tried to look at that demon, it just moved, right? I was never able to actually like process it with my eyes because it just kept moving. So to me, that was like just that represented that my demons, that I'm not able to directly observe them, right? And so I need to find other ways to observe them. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So part of the ayahuasca experience is seeing visions, right? At times, like extremely profound visions. I'll share with you guys the third time that I took ayahuasca. And that was actually more recently, because again now I'm making this more of a ritual, and I'll talk about why I'm doing that in a little bit. When I say ritual, I mean something that I'm going to be doing just with frequency. So the third time that I took ayahuasca, I was extremely exhausted. Some of you guys that watch the channel know that I've this year I've been suffering from a lot of energy issues, and so I went outside again. I don't know why. The first bunch of times I didn't realize that you should just vomit into the bucket. I always went outside. And so anyway, so I go outside. I'm in the bathroom stall. I'm paying the ferryman. That's actually generally the vision that I'll see as I'm entering the experience. And it was also raining at the time too, so I hear the rain. Like everything is just gray, and I'm so physically exhausted. Right, I was physically exhausted before I started the experience, and now I'm in the corner of the bathroom. I'm basically just squatting down. I'm using the walls to support me, and I just feel like I'm gonna collapse on the ground. Like I'm just so tired. A level of tired that this isn't just like long day of work. This isn't even this is a level of tired that just doesn't even make sense. Oh, well, it did make sense. Just an extreme level of tired. Shaman appears again, and he's like, "Hey, come back inside. Let's bring you over to the." I don't know what he said actually, but he appeared, and he guided me back into the hut. Right, I'm walking over to my bed, and I'm so tired. Every step feels like I'm just I'm forcing as much as I possibly can, but I'm just so tired. And I get back to my bed, and I just collapse in front of it. Basically, I collapse in front of it, and then I'm like crawling to just get back onto it fully, and I can't. I got onto like half of it, and I collapsed, right? And this was the most intense vision that I've ever seen. So I collapsed, right? I can't move anything on my body. I can't move my finger. I'm dead. And so all of a sudden, I was no longer in the hut, right? I'm in this like barren, torched wasteland, like a post-apocalyptic type setting, right? The entire ground is scorched. I can see for just infinitely, well, not infinitely, but I can just see, to the horizon around me, and everything is it's just torched flat earth. The sky there's thunderstorms, and it's like a purple. There was like a purple filter almost on everything, just like a scorched earth. Just everything is dead, right? And this is death. And so I separate from my body. So I'm this like spark almost that's kind of sitting above my body. I was actually a spark. Like I saw myself as it's like a spark, like a ball of light, but a spark specifically. And so I'm looking down at my body, and my body's just dead below me, and it's just, but it's not dead. It's gray. It still has its full form, but it's just gray, right? Like ashes. And in that moment, I had such profound appreciation for my body, and it's hard to explain this stuff here now, because when you're on that side of things, it's an entirely different experience. And so you can, in the snap of a finger, like, have an entire wealth of, just a massive amount of experience in just like a finger snap. And who even knows how long that finger snap is? Because again, time on that side, like there's been times where, I finished the journey, and it's like, I feel like years have passed. So anyway, so I'm a spark, right? I see my body, and I feel this just, and again, this all just kind of happened instantaneously, even though it's going to take me a minute to describe it. But I felt this just incredible reverence for everything that my body had gone through. I suddenly saw like the entire, I had this gratitude, because my body is just this physical vessel, right? It's just this physical thing that transports, what I really am. And it's the vehicle for that. And so, and I was grateful, and I saw, from when I was young until that point, right? The actual experience of coming back into the hut, and then falling onto the ground, and like basically just it was interesting to observe how my physical body was trying as hard as it could to, bring me, that thing that is really me, like to a place where it's, back fully onto the bed, right, where I could be more comfortable, where I could rest. And so anyway, there was this tremendous appreciation for my body, for this, again, this physical vessel. Once that was done, the spark that was me just began to ascend, right? And so I'm just going up, and in the distance I see a light. And so it's very much like, it sounds like dying, right? I'm going up, I see a light, and I get to a wall, and it's like a transparent, sort of opaque wall, where you can, like, I can see form on the other side, but I can't see, and I can see light coming from the other side, but I can't see directly into the other side. It's like opaque, I think is the word. That was the most interesting that I've ever had, in the sense that every time that I've done ayahuasca, what I'm experiencing a oneness, but I always experience a oneness, right? So everything within the experience I am experiencing, and I know is me, if that makes sense. So I'll maybe try to explain that in a little bit if I remember, because everything that we observe is essentially us. But what was interesting about this, so I got to the wall, I could see light on the other side, and I could see that there was something there. I don't know that it was necessarily trying to communicate with me, but it was there, and it wanted me to know that it was there. And I knew that I wasn't ready to communicate with it. I just knew that. And when I say that, it's like, this is a profound feeling of knowing that I'm not ready to communicate with this thing that was on the other side. And that was very interesting for me, because that was, again, every time I've done this, it's always, everything is me, right? And I am those things. But this thing was something different, something outside of me. something that was not me. That was interesting. So anyway, after that, I came back down as the spark, back into my body, and then more stuff. So those are a couple of experiences that I've had with ayahuasca. So we talked a little bit about, we talked about the process, talked about some of my experience, talked about just the nature of truth, right? Maybe I'll focus on that a little bit more. So my personal experience in my, over the course of the development of my overall thought process, if you will, over the last 8 years of intensely observing myself within the context of a greater capitalistic, consumeristic society. I firmly believe that to exist within society, more specifically to exist within a capitalistic framework designed to maximize profit. And again, I want to be very careful to say that these are not critiques. These are simply my observations. When the goal is profit, I believe that what happens is you have, and there's a French philosopher who talks about this. His name is Jean Baudrillard. He talks about the hyper-real. And so what ends up happening is when profit is essentially the god of this reality, you start to become disconnected from reality. And I'll give you guys an example that Jean Baudrillard uses. So he likes to use this example of the map becoming the territory. But the map is not the reality, right? The map is just a perfect simulation of the reality. And so what happens when if someone comes along and changes the map, right? And this is what I feel is happening with modern society, is basically that we're living in a false reality. We're living in an imitation of what was once real. And that imitation, again, when you have profit as the goal, you have lots of reasons for people, for just, not even necessarily individuals or groups, but just the map itself is going to evolve to reflect the people. We are we like to think that corporations and media and political institutions, we like to think that those things, Illuminati, we like to think that those things are manipulating us, but we exchange in that process, right? The point that I was trying to make, as far as us believing that corporations or there are individuals that are basically control, we participate in that control. It's not that it goes one way. It's two ways always. And so, in many ways, I feel that modern society, again, with the goal of profit, is basically a highly modified version of the perfect simulation of true reality. I hope that makes sense. And so, I believe that to exist within society, because to exist within society, everyone is kind of beholden to this false reality, and so every single person that I speak to or experience, even just my own experience of myself, is to exist within society is a form of contamination. I feel myself contaminated the more, especially if I go through periods where I don't meditate, is because meditation is a form of cleansing yourself. It is, if society is a form of contamination, if to exist within society is a form of contamination, then meditation, right, is a form of cure. Ayahuasca is a way to cure yourself. That's why ayahuasca is something that I'll be doing pretty frequently until I feel that I don't need to do it. And I think meditation is probably again, which when I say meditation, what I'm talking about is to achieve a state where we don't desire we're just desirelessness, right? Anyway, so that's I guess I'll finish this video by just saying that if you're someone that's considering doing something like this, again, and I want to be very careful too, especially within the context of like YouTube and censor. I'm not saying that anyone should go and do this. I'm simply sharing my experience. Some people will be able to relate, some people won't. That's fine. I will say that if we shouldn't underestimate our capacity for psychedelic experience, or to experience things that are outside of our reality. And that's I guess where I'll close this video. It's just that when we exist just within our normal everyday reality, if we truly desire truth, the things that we most need to question are the things that we least think to question. And so something like ayahuasca can help us to be able to see those things that we least think to question, those things that are just part of our everyday, that our entire conscious understanding of things like derives from those things, and so we don't question those things, and it is in questioning those things that we can come to a true understanding of ourselves. Human emotions, for example, right? We often don't question, we see that there are good emotions and bad emotions, but we don't question that, right? So we don't question that part, and so what if there aren't good emotions and bad emotions, right? And if we think about it a little bit more, it's like, well, we need, like, the bad emotions. For every good emotion, there has to be like an opposite bad emotion for that good emotion to exist, right? And then we can come to realize that emotions, as we experience them, they're not necessarily good or bad. Good or bad is a filter that we apply on them after we've experienced them, and then we experience the emotion, then it gets filtered into good or bad. But there's a place before that where they're not good or bad. They simply are, and that's an example of something that we don't question. And perhaps if we did, all of a sudden those bad emotions, they wouldn't be bad emotions, and maybe they wouldn't affect us the way that they do, right? And so rather than taking pills and going to therapists and psychologists, and rather than doing all manner of things to deal with those negative emotions, maybe if we just looked a little bit deeper, we would come to understand them differently. Anyway, guys, I think that's enough for today. Hopefully this video has been helpful. If you guys like this video, please give it a like. Ask you to subscribe if you're not already subscribed. If you like my content, if you feel like you can relate to me, what I'm talking about, make sure to click the notification bell. YouTube does not like my content, so if you don't click the bell, you probably won't see me again. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys in the next video. Ciao.